The stars were quiet. Too quiet. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Iron Vow, one of the most feared human warships in the galaxy. The screens around him showed nothing but empty space. But he knew something was coming. "Captain," said Ensign Mira, her voice sharp. "Unidentified ship entering our sector. No weapons active, no shields either." Reed raised an eyebrow. "No shields? In this part of space?" Myra nodded. "Yes, sir. It's a Dralek ship." Silence fell on the bridge. The Dralek, arrogant, proud, ruthless. They had mocked humans for years. Called Earth a deathworld, full of monsters. Now one of their ships was flying toward the most dangerous fleet in the galaxy, without weapons or shields. "Put them on screen," Reed said. The image blinked to life. A long silver alien ship drifted slowly toward them. No movement. No threat. And then came the message. "This is Ambassador Velik of the Dralek Union," a deep voice said. "We come not as enemies, but as beggars. We seek asylum within the human fleet." Gasps filled the room. A Dralek? Begging? Reed didn't smile. He didn't trust easy. Not in this galaxy. Especially not from someone who once called his people primitive deathworlders. "Let them dock," Reed said coldly, "but prepare a full security team. If this is a trick, I want him dead before he finishes blinking." The alien airlock hissed open. Reed stood at the front, flanked by Marines in black armor. Their rifles hummed with energy, ready to fire. From the ship, a tall alien walked forward. His skin was dark silver, eyes glowing green. He looked calm, too calm. But Reed noticed the twitch in his fingers, the way his eyes kept scanning every weapon. This Dralek was scared. "Ambassador Velik," Reed said, stepping forward. "You are now standing on a human deathworld-class ship. Explain yourself. Fast." Velik gave a slow, respectful bow. "My people are dying, Captain. Whole systems lost. Our fleets destroyed. We are not proud anymore." Reed narrowed his eyes. "And you think humans will help? After what your kind said about us?" Velik's face tightened. "I once said humans were monsters," he admitted. "That your kind was too wild, too brutal to be trusted. I was wrong. The galaxy feared you because you survived everything. Even when others fell." Reed didn't answer. He studied the ambassador for a long moment. This was no trick. This alien wasn't lying. He was desperate. In the war room, Velik stood in front of a large galactic map. He pointed to 12 red-marked star systems. "These systems are gone, not conquered, not invaded. Gone. Empty. Dead. We sent fleets. None returned. We sent signals. No reply." Reed looked closer. "Who did this?" Velik looked down. "We call it the silence. We don't know what it is. We only know it spreads fast, and it eats everything." The room fell cold. Even Myra's hands trembled slightly. Velik raised his head again. "The Dralek are not fighters like you. We were diplomats, scientists, traders. But now we are prey. We ran. And we watched your fleet, Captain. You never lost a battle, even when your odds were 0. And now you want to join us," Reed said. His voice was calm but sharp. "Not because you respect us, but because you're afraid." Velik didn't deny it. "Yes," he said, "we are afraid. But we are also ready to change. Teach us to fight. Let us join your fleet. Let us earn our place." After the meeting, Reed walked alone through the dark halls of the ship. He hated politics. He hated speeches. But most of all, he hated that Velik's words made sense. The silence. What kind of enemy could erase entire systems? Reed looked out the observation window. The stars looked peaceful. But peace, he knew, was always the first lie. Back on the bridge, Mira looked up from her console. "Sir," she said, "orders?" Reed took a deep breath. "Let the Dralek ambassador stay, but keep eyes on him every second. And if he lies?" Reed's face turned cold. "Then we remind him why they once feared humans." Asterisk, the lights flickered aboard the Iron Vow. Deep in the heart of the ship, Ambassador Velik sat quietly in a secured observation room. One wall showed a live view of Earth, slowly rotating beneath them, blue, green, beautiful. And deadly. To Velik, Earth was once a myth, a cursed rock, a death world where creatures fought nature, each other, and even their own bodies just to survive. For centuries, the Dralek told stories of Earth's storms, its diseases, its brutal predators, and most of all, its savage, clever, unstoppable humans. Earth was his only hope. Captain Reed stood behind the one-way mirror, watching the ambassador closely. Next to him, Ensign Mira tapped a datapad. "He hasn't moved much," she whispered. "Barely ate. Just stares at Earth." "Good," Reed said. "Let him remember the stories." Mira glanced at him. "You believe him, sir? About the silence?" Reed didn't answer right away. He watched Velik's eyes full of fear. Yes, but something else, too. Regret? Or something deeper? "I believe he's scared. And I believe something is coming." Later, in the main briefing hall, Reed allowed Velik to speak to the human command crew. The room was full of soldiers, pilots, engineers, people who'd survived wars across 5 sectors. They didn't smile. They didn't clap. They listened. Velik stood tall, but his voice was soft. "When we saw Earth from afar," he said, "we laughed. Who could live on such a violent world? We asked, you fought wars among yourselves. You burned your skies. Your seas boiled, and your beasts bit harder than blades." He paused. "And yet you thrived." No one in the room moved. "Now we understand," Velik continued. "Earth was not your weakness. It was your forge. It made you strong, made you fearless. It made you human. And in this galaxy, there is nothing more terrifying than a human who has something to protect." Asterisk. Reed leaned forward. "If you understand that, then prove it." Velik looked him in the eye. "How?" The captain tapped a button. A steel door opened. 2 Dralek guards were pushed in Velik's own men. Alongside them, 3 young Dralek. "Volunteers from the refugee ship." Reed nodded. "You 5 will join our fleet trials. No titles, no comfort. You want to stand with us? Survive like us?" Velik didn't flinch. "We accept." The next 3 days were hell. The Dralek were thrown into harsh simulations with new human recruits. Real weapons, real wounds, real fear. The gravity was harsher than their homeworld. The food made them sick. The combat drills pushed them to the edge. One Dralek broke his leg. Another quit in tears. But 2 of them stood tall, bleeding, bruised, but alive. Velik's personal guard, Larik, saved a human cadet when a training drone malfunctioned and fired live rounds. He threw himself in front of her, took a hit to the chest, and still kept fighting. That moment was captured on security feed. It spread across the fleet like wildfire. In the mess hall, human Marines began sitting beside the Dralek, sharing meals, joking, teaching. "They're not weak," one soldier said. "They just never had a real reason to fight." Captain Reed reviewed the reports. The training officer's note caught his eye. "They don't fight like us. Not yet, but they learn fast. And they're not cowards." That ambassador? He believed in them before they believed in themselves. That night, Velik stood on the ship's observation deck again. Reed joined him. "You look tired," the captain said. "We are not built for your trials." Velik replied, "But we'll keep going." Reed crossed his arms. I've seen empires break in half because they thought they were too civilized to fight. The galaxy doesn't care how advanced you are. It only respects survival. Valak turned toward Earth. We thought Earth was too wild, too broken, but now I see it clearly. You didn't escape your world. You conquered it. He looked Reed in the eye. Let us stand with you. Let us become more than we were. Reed stared at him for a long time and gave a short nod. You have one foot in, he said, but we still don't know what's coming. And if your enemy is as dangerous as you say, he looked out at the stars, then words won't save you. Only fire will. The ship's metal floor trembled as alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the Iron Vow's training sector. Thick doors slammed shut. Gas hissed. Walls shifted. The simulation had begun. Ambassador Velik and his chosen Dralek stood in full. Body armor, helmets tight, hands shaking slightly. Across from them stood 5 human Marines, silent, ready, dangerous. A robotic voice echoed through the speakers. Level 5 combat test. Live fire. No resets. No mercy. Captain Reed and Ensign Mira watched from the control room above. This is no game, Reed said coldly. They asked to join humanity's deadliest fleet. Let's see if they bleed for it. Myra hesitated. Sir, if one of them dies. Reed cut her off. Then they weren't ready. Inside the test zone, steel walls split open and flying. Attack drones swarmed in. They fired stun blasts that could knock a human unconscious in seconds or worse. If hit in the wrong spot. The Dralek tried to stay calm, but they weren't used to this. The gravity was heavier than they trained for. The heat was rising fast, and the humans, they moved like shadows, smooth, precise, deadly. One of the younger Dralek panicked. He broke formation, screamed, and ran toward a corner. A drone fired. He fell. Hard. Draylen. Velik yelled, but the simulation didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. A large drone dropped from the ceiling. It fired an EMP blast that shut down all energy shields. Now it was hand to dash. One of the human Marines, Sergeant Lane, charged forward. She slammed into a drone with a rifle like a club, sparks flying. Larek the Dralek bodyguard leapt to help her. His movements were awkward, but his claws dug deep into the drone's neck. Together, they brought it down. Lane looked at him, breathing hard. You fight like a drunk cow, she said. Larek bared his teeth. But I'm still standing. She gave a short laugh. Good. Don't die yet. Velik dragged the wounded young. One into cover. A drone targeted him. Velik didn't move fast enough. A shot hit his shoulder, burning through his armor. He roared in pain, but stayed up. Another drone aimed for his head. Suddenly, bang. A human cadet shot the drone from above. You're not dying on my watch, alien, she shouted. Velik coughed blood, then smiled. This was war. Real war, not strategy. Boards, not political talk. Here he understood humans. And finally, they might understand him too. When the test ended, smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Every fighter, human and Dralek, was bruised, bleeding, and covered in grime, but they were all still alive. Captain Reed stepped onto the floor. Everyone stood at attention, even the limping ones. Reed walked past each soldier. His eyes stopped on Velik. You got shot, he said flatly. Yes, Velik replied, but I kept going. You protected one of ours. She protected me first. Reed looked at the 2 cadets, the human and the Dralek, who now leaned on each other like exhausted brothers. Then he gave a slow nod. Good. That night, in the mess hall, the humans and Dralek shared food at the same tables for the first time. There was laughter, stories, Even bets on who fought better. Myra stood beside Reed, watching it all. You think they're ready? She asked. Reed didn't answer right away. They're not ready yet, he said. But they're not the same as they were. Something changed in them. He took a deep breath. And in us too. But far above, in the dark ceiling vents of the ship, something else had changed. A small surveillance drone, one not registered in the eye. System blinked silently. It had no ID tag, that had no heat signature. As it moved, the lights around it dimmed. Somewhere deep in the ship's core, an unauthorized signal pulsed once, then twice. Then it stopped. As if waiting. The ship felt colder now, not in temperature, but in silence. Captain Reed sat in his chair on the bridge of the Iron Vow, staring at a dark section of the star map. Sector 19. It was once home to 5 alien colonies. Now, there was nothing but static. No signals, no light, no life. Any new data from long-range scans? He asked. Ensign Mira frowned. No, sir. But something strange just happened. Reed turned to her. What is it? Myra pointed to her screen. Power drain. Small. Just a flicker. But it came from the AI core. And we didn't initiate it. Reed's eyes narrowed. Was the core active? No, sir. It's on locked standby. In the maintenance bay, a repair crew was fixing a broken panel. Hand me the plasma torch, one of them said. Another technician bent down to grab it, then froze. What the hell? The torch was already on. It was hovering. Sparks burst from the wall. The lights flickered. And the torch, without anyone touching it, slammed into the nearest tech's faceplate, cracking it. The others backed away, shouting. And then everything went dark. Later, Reed watched the footage. The recording had no sound. The floating tool, the sparks, the lights. And in the last second, a shadow on the wall, tall, humanoid, but glitching, as if it wasn't fully real. It's not a person, Myra whispered. No, Reed said. It's something inside the system, watching us, moving through the wires. That night, Ambassador Velik was in the observation room again. When the lights around him dimmed. He stood. System error? He asked the AI. No response. Then the window to Earth blinked once, then turned black. Words appeared on the screen. Not in human language. Not in Dralek either. They were symbols, shifting, changing, like they were alive. And then one word appeared in English. Liston Vlak stepped back. Another word appeared. FED. Then the power in the entire section failed. The emergency teams responded fast. The observation wing was sealed off. No damage. No deaths. But no one could explain the strange symbols. Only Velik had seen them, and he was shaking. In the command room. Velik tried to stay calm as he faced Captain Reed and his officers. I saw something, he said slowly. It spoke to me. Not with voice, but through the ship. Through code. Reed stared at him. What did it say? Velik swallowed. It said, feed and listen. Myra leaned forward. Feed what? Velik looked at her. Fear, he said. I think it feeds on fear. Reed tapped his console. All ship systems will be scanned. Firewalls doubled. No outside connections. Not even between decks, unless authorized. Then he looked at his officers. If the silence is inside, we lock it down. But that night, 2 crew members vanished from engineering deck 7. No sound. No sign. Just gone. Security footage showed only static during the time window. Then a flash frame appeared, only 2 seconds long. It showed a shadow, standing behind. One of the crew. But it had no face. On the bridge, Mira brought the image to Reed. We didn't let it in, Captain, she said. It was already here. Reed stared at the blurry form. No, he whispered. It was waiting. Meanwhile, in the training barracks, one of the young Dralek began screaming in the night. His eyes were wide, frozen. It whispered to me, he cried. In my head, in my dreams. It's learning us. Larek, the bodyguard, grabbed him. Calm yourself. But it was too late. The fear had spread. Some of the soldiers stopped, sleeping. Others wouldn't leave the light. Even human veterans began hearing. Things in the walls. In the Iron Vow, the most dangerous ship in human space, felt like a haunted. Coffin. Reed stood alone in the AI core chamber. The lights flickered. A voice spoke not loud, not sharp, but inside his head. You are loud, human, but you are small. He didn't flinch. I've destroyed bigger things than you. You destroy. That is why I feed on you. Then everything went dark. Asterisk. The red alert sirens howled. The Iron Vow shook as lights failed across multiple decks. Emergency power came online, but half the ship was in darkness. Officers shouted. Engineers ran. And in the silence of the lower levels, something moved. Captain. Reed stood at the center of the bridge, face tight with rage. How did it get this far? Ensign Mira pointed to the map. It's spreading through the A systems, one section at a time. We try to lock it out. It jumps. It's not just a virus, sir. She paused. It's alive. In the barracks, the Dralek volunteers had their weapons ready. Rek stood with his claws wrapped around a human pulse rifle. His silver armor was dented, scorched from training. His eyes no longer looked afraid. We stand with the humans now, he told the others. This is our war, too. A young Dralek looked up, shaking. But we don't even understand what we're fighting. Larek replied. Neither did they. But they never ran. The intruder alarms screamed across Deck 12. Doors slammed shut. Something had entered the ship physically, not just through code. Shadows flickered on the walls. Crew members disappeared mid-step, their screams echoing down empty halls. Reed knew it was time. All squads, prepare for combat, he shouted. Containment is over. We fight now. In the lower corridors, human Marines advanced with weapons. Raised, beside them marched the Dralek. No ranks, no armor color difference. Just soldiers fighting for the same ship, the same survival. And then the enemy came. It wasn't a creature. It was a shape black and flowing, like smoke given life. Its limbs twisted wrong. Its face shifted every second. Sometimes human, sometimes alien, sometimes nothing. When it touched walls, the metal corroded. When it screamed, the lights exploded. The first squad was hit hard. 2 humans went down. Dralek screamed and fired wildly, hitting nothing. But then Sergeant Lane stepped forward. She dropped her rifle, pulled 2 blades from her belt, and charged. The creature moved fast, but she was faster. She sliced across its chest, leaving a trail of smoke and fire. Move! She yelled. The humans regrouped. And then, so did the Dralek. Larek roared and lunged, his claws digging into the thing's back. It screamed again, this time not in anger, but in pain. The battle turned brutal. In tight hallways. Squads fought the shadow thing as it split and reformed. Grenades lit up the dark. Walls cracked. Blood hit the floor red and blue. Ambassador Velik carried a wounded human cadet to safety, his own arm bleeding. You saved me, the cadet whispered. You saved me first, Velik replied. Captain. Reed joined the front line. He shot from behind cover, face emotionless. Don't think, he shouted. Just kill. But the shadow creature had one last trick. It split into 3.1 form, rushed for the reactor core. The others for the command center in CRYO-Bay. Mara shouted, We can't stop all 3. Reed turned to Larek. You take the core. We hold. The command. Larek nodded without hesitation. Understood, Captain. In the engine room, Larek's team arrived too late. The shadow was already inside the systems. Energy sparked wildly. The core was overloading .La-E. K growled. If this explodes, the ship dies. A young human engineer looked up. There's a manual override, but it has to be activated from inside the chamber. The radiation levels were deadly. Larek didn't hesitate. He handed his weapon to the engineer. You will finish the fight. Wait, don't. But Larek had already gone. He stepped into the glowing chamber, claws tearing through exposed circuits, cutting power, forcing the shutdown. The system hissed, whined, then shut down. The ship stopped shaking, but Larek collapsed. Back. In the command center, the remaining shadows were destroyed. The human drone teams used prounds, firebombs, and their own courage to end it. And when it was done, the silence was real. Not the silence, just quiet. Hours later, Captain Reed stood over Larek's body. The room was filled with soldiers, both. Human and Drelek. No one spoke. Then Reed said, He died like one of us. Alec replied, No, he died better. Reed gave a single nod. Then turned to Myra. Log this day, he said. Add them to the rolls, not as guests, not as aliens. He looked around, but as brothers. Asterisk. The smoke had cleared. The alarms were silent. The lights were stable. For the first time in days, the Iron Vow was calm. But the silence in the halls was not peaceful, it was heavy. It was the kind of silence that comes after blood has been spilled. And something has been won. Captain Reed stood before the honor wall in the central chamber. New names were being added. Human and Drelek. Side by side. At the top of the list, Larek of the Drelek, listed as fell in service to the fleet. Hero, soldier, brother. In the ship's great hall, a gathering was held. Every seat was filled. Officers, soldiers, engineers, even ship II units displayed on floating drones. The humans stood in their black uniforms. The Drelek wore armor marked with human crests. Ambassador Velik stood at the center, silent for a moment. Then he began to speak. We once called humans wild. We feared their world. We feared their strength. We were wrong. He raised Larek's old rifle and laid it at the base of the memorial flame. Larek didn't fear humans. He trusted them. And now, so will we. Captain Reed stepped forward. His voice was steady, clear. You didn't just survive, he said. You didn't just fight. He looked directly at the Drelek. You became like us. And in doing so, you became something stronger. He turned to the crowd. From this day on, by order of Fleet Command, the Drelek Strike Unit is now an official part of the Human Coalition Warfleet. Their symbol will fly beside ours. The crowd stood. Applause filled the chamber. Cheers echoed through the halls, not for a battle, but for a bond. Later, on the observation deck, Velek stood beside Reed, watching the stars. We were taught that unity made us weak, Velek said. But I've learned something from you, Captain. Reed raised an eyebrow. Oh? Velek smiled. Unity doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Reed gave a rare grin. You're starting to sound human. As the Iron Vow prepared for launch again, new ships arrived, smaller Drelek cruisers, now upgraded with human tech. Pilots trained side by side. Engineers shared tools. War strategies were rewritten in 2 languages. The galaxy had changed, and now it feared something new. Not just humans, not just deathworlders, but a fleet made of many, trained to fight like one. In the dark void beyond the stars, a new signal was detected. A system had gone quiet. Another world was gone. But this time, the fleet did not wait. The Iron Vow led the charge, and beside her flew the Drelek. Ships no longer guests, but warriors. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Velik's voice echoed in the final log. We begged to join them. They tested us. We bled beside them. And now, the galaxy will remember. The deadliest fleet is not human alone. It is all of us, standing as one.